Hello friend. So it's time for a garden update. I'm just gonna walk around and kind of give an overview of how things are growing. Everything is really getting big and filling out. Things are bopping in the garden. Rose bush. Just waiting for some of it to open. And then this tomato plant is doing really well. I filled in a lot of this bed this week. I cleaned out the rabbit barn. So put a lot of the material from the rabbit barn in here to finish filling it out. Like flowers are starting to open. The grapes are still looking fabulous from the road, but they look really sad inside. The fungus really got a hold of them. Like these are red grapes, so these are like ready. But the ones that are falling off, the ones that are like all brown and dried up, those are ones that the fungus got a hold of. But like this is a ripe grape. See how ripe it is. We'll see. If it's super sour and tart, you're gonna know it. Not bad. Oh, that's pretty sour. That's sour. The inside was not bad. The skin was super sour and bitter. A lot of these just turned from the fungus because even though we sprayed them with copper fungicide, I guess a lot of them just didn't make it. They just couldn't hang. So anyways, yeah, next year we definitely have to make sure that we prune this way back. As magnificent as it looks on the outside, it's beautiful out here, but you know, I mean, and if that's all I'm really after is it looking beautiful, that's fine, but definitely not producing grapes for us to eat because most of them are yucky under there. This front flower bed, everything is really filling out. The zinnias are starting to pop open now. The dahlias have bloomed. Some of them have opened up. Oh my goodness, look, our first little Shasta. Well, it's not a Shasta, it's like the blue button daisy. How exciting is that? My daughter's gonna be so excited. That's her favorite. Daisies are her favorite. I cut back some of these zinnias to give this rosemary some room. Looks like I may have to cut them some more. I also have my black hollyhocks right there. Just trying to give them some space to open. But we've got lots of zinnias starting to pop open. Chamomile coming up all over the place. I did come in and prune up some tomatoes a little bit this week. So they're a little less wild than they were, but still kind of crazy. The noodle bean trellis is loaded with blossoms and noodle beans. I need to come out and harvest this evening. So there's a bunch of baby noodle beans on here that we need to let grow. Elderberry bush is really loaded down with blossoms. They'll be setting fruit soon if the birds will leave them alone. The tromboncino squash is starting to make fruit. And the loofah gourds are also starting to produce some fruit. They're really growing up and over now. I still have yet to put anything in this space. Still no hole from the crawdad, so it has moved on, I think. So I'm going to probably put either some more cucumbers here, or I may do either Armenian yard-long cucumbers, or I may do another climbing personal size melon here. On this other side, we've got these cucumbers coming on. I've got to come out and do a harvest this evening. It's filling out nicely. This tomato trellis is looking good. Oh my. Got some pests going on here. Some sort of, it's probably armyworm. I haven't seen any signs of tomato hornworm yet. I've been coming out with a black light and checking. I don't see any greenery missing. So that is probably a armyworm or some other sort of caterpillar. Over here, except for this one sad tomato plant. It's just like this one lone tomato plant right here. It looks sad and droopy. And this is such a beautiful sunflower. I can't wait for it to open. Look, those petals are black. It's going to be gorgeous. So here on this first trellis, we have a bunch of cucamelon babies coming up. There's just a ton of cucamelons. See a little tiny baby cucamelon. So cute. Peppers are looking pretty good over here. Got this tomato plant. Looks like it might be a Sweet 100. I didn't put my label down there, so I don't know. These tomatoes are really filling out nicely. The Kajari melons are still struggling. I think they may be getting shaded out by all the green beans on that side. And then the tomatoes here. So I think because we had to replant this trellis twice, I think that they didn't get enough of a head start before everything else got big and bushy. So I don't know if they're going to make it. I keep moving them so that they can at least, you know, receive some sun. But we'll see. Then we have these tomatoes, some more tomatoes. These are the little golden nuggets. I've already pulled some off of there that were ripe. They were delicious. Our apple tree has gotten really tall. It really took a growth spurt this year. This sunflower finally opened. And we got all these tomatoes. These Kalima beans have gone a little wild. They are producing amazing. I have to come over here and I use a rake or a pitchfork to kind of pick them up and look before I start sticking my hands around in there, because we've had some snakes recently in the yard. So just to be like double sure before I go sticking my hands in there looking for beans, I lift up the plants and kind of flip them over to make sure that nothing else is under there. We've picked twice off of here, and I've got like a gallon bag full of beans that I've got to put in the freezer. It's a bunch. There's a happy little sunflower plant. It's just a ton. It's just got a bunch of little sunflowers on it. Super cool. The potatoes in here, kind of wild. We've already gotten quite a few cucumbers off of this plant. It looks like I might need to come and maybe kind of prune it back a little bit. See squash bugs that I need to pick off of here. This big sunflower plant, this big sunflower head has already made its seeds. And you can see where the birds have sat here and pecked the seeds out. They've been eating the seeds, which I don't mind sharing. Got more of the tomatoes and odds and ends growing here. All of those radishes that kind of got washed together by the rain. Peppers, more cucumbers. That nasturtium right there looks like it's getting ready to blossom. Peppers, the cantaloupe is blossoming. And then on to the in-ground space where we have our first okra. Look, that's so exciting. Looks like I'm gonna have to start checking that every day, because we're gonna start having okra come on. I knew we had some blossoms, so that's exciting. We love some good fresh okra. I'm hoping to put more up too. We just used our last bag of okra in the freezer a few weeks ago, so we're ready to put more away and eat more. And this tomato jungle I have going on here, I am still working out exactly what I'm going to do for trellising. I've got some really big fruit down in there, but you can't see it. I don't know. I was considering getting the stakes to put in the holes beside them to just tie them up. But that's going to take a lot of pruning also at this point, so we'll see. See, this is a jalapeno plant. It's getting its first blooms. I've got these bush beans. I've got squash and zucchini over here that I am trying to keep the squash bugs and vine borers from getting a hold of. So I've been coming out here picking the squash bugs off by hand and the eggs to try to keep them at bay as best I can. These squash are looking well. And then we've got the watermelons down here that are looking good. It's time for me to come and thin these out a little bit. This watermelon is growing really great. Go out. They're starting to really put off a lot more blossoms and fruit, setting fruit. This is the new one that we had. We bought last year and it was in a pot. So I transplanted it over here because I had one die. Looks like it's taking hold pretty good. It's trying to produce some fruit. I filled in this strawberry bed with a little more organic matter from the rabbit barn. And then we've got the blueberry bush, and then mostly just herbs. I need to come and harvest this sage over here. This sunflower is setting its seed, but you know, I'm not sure if a bird did that. That looks like some pretty big chomps out of it. Deer might have done that. I don't know. It's also got some big chunks. Or maybe a squirrel. Maybe a squirrel. That's some big chunks. I mean, I guess a bird could have pulled at that. Guess I'd rather them eat that than some of the other things that I have growing. I harvested a ton of dill and parsley a couple nights ago. And then I have a bunch of these almost dried heads of pink dandelions. I'm going to get the seed and go spread those in some other places on the property. This blueberry bush is pretty much done for the season. It's still putting off a few tiny berries, but not much. The raspberries are just booming over here, putting off new shoots. The strawberries are really spreading out over here also. And the strawberry pool. This is more random tomatoes and some peppers down in there, and then some mustard greens and some weeds, because you know. So here's the leeks. They're coming along really great. The bunching onions are not doing well. They didn't do great with the heat, so I think I'm going to wait to plant more bunching onions closer to fall. And so I plugged in a couple more basil right there. I pulled out all of the peas that were here along this trellis. So the tomatoes that are on this trellis have really taken off this week. But the peas were done with the heat. They were finished. We ate them for dinner last night. Check on this dwarf tomato. It is starting to set some blossoms. That's exciting. All of my chives that were in this pot that were coming up that I was so excited about, they died. I guess they got too hot. I don't know. Maybe they needed more water than the tomato. So we started filling some of the buckets. I'm gonna put some good soil on top the top section there. And I may try again with some more chives. Oh my goodness, look, it's a baby zipper spider. Look at the baby zipper spider that's in this bucket, y'all. I've never seen one that small. I hope she sticks around and gets really big. Or he, I don't know. I need to harvest this chamomile and put it in the dehydrator. And then the things that are in that bucket are doing okay. The dill is starting to bolt because it's so hot. But I'm gonna let it go and just go to seed. Drop the seed in there, it'll grow more dill. The lemongrass is looking great. It's looking great. The mint is finally starting to fill out its container. These things over here are looking really good. Just kind of a wild mess of things. We got the black hollyhock. It's looking wonderful. Got some snapdragons that have opened. I had some of this, I guess it's like peat moss, some kind of moss. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but they started blooming this week too. I was hoping that they'll kind of fill out and hang over and fill out. The nasturtiums are really struggling with the heat, I guess. And this tomato plant and this marigold trying to hang out and reach for light. And then I'm not really sure what this is. Just letting it go till I figure out what's what. So the rose bush is starting to really show heat stress. I've been pulling all of the dead heads off and feeding them to the goats. So the experiment with the pinto beans, they're a little stressed from the heat and they need water, but they are still alive and kicking. And they've been in here for 3 weeks now, growing, sprouted. So I think our hay is good. It's fine. All these things are doing good. I did separate all my basils and I transplanted a bunch into the green stock. So these were just extras. I'll go plug those around. We're going to have a ton of pesto this year. Moonflowers are really starting to spread up the trellis. They're going way up. The goats were sticking their head through the fence earlier and nibbling on them. And I was like, no. This one's starting to climb more. And my impatiens that my daughter gave me for Mother's Day are blooming and looking beautiful right there. I kind of think I should put some more on that side. And then this is my fig tree that the goats also stuck their heads through and started nibbling. And I was like, no. So I moved it over here further away from the fence line. But this is my new little dwarf fig tree and I can't wait to get it in the ground. I'm pretty excited about that. So all of my micro tomatoes have fruit over here. Got a lot of the basil that I transplanted is doing well. Looks like we got rid of all the slugs that were in my green stock. So that's good. Then got the chamomile here. I had to put a little trellis to keep it off of everything like I did the other one. And this has started blooming, this little moss plant. But all of the micro tomatoes, this tiny Tim, I don't know. Anyways, it's really putting off a bunch of tomatoes. I'm excited about that. I have a dill up there that's going to seed. I'm just going to let it do its thing. Got stuff in the pots now. Just needs a good layer of, good potting mix on top or compost or whatever. We will head over here to the front yard garden. Ran the sprinkler over here the other day because it was looking pretty dry. I'm glad we have the mulch over here. The potatoes are starting to sprout up through a little more. The rest of these that we buried a little deeper seem to be struggling to come up. So we may have to put something else there later. tomatoes, they're looking all right. These purple hull peas, I still have to kind of thin them out a little bit. Cucumbers are looking good. I actually brought my pruners because I'm just going, while I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and nip some of these. In each hole. That'll give them the space and the water and nutrients that they need. I'm going to do the same thing here with these melons. They're planted really thick because they were old seed, so we planted a lot of extras. They all came up, so I'm going to just prune them back, pull all but I don't know, 3. This row is some winter squash that we planted, and then all of our corn. I'm gonna have to get out here with the stirrup hoe and get after these rows and around the corn before the grass takes over. This week we'll probably come out here and do that, but the corn's looking really good. It might not be knee-high by July, but I mean, you know, we'll see how it goes. We have a long season. I have 100 and some odd days left in my growing season, so we should be good. Take the things that we cut, throw them over to Almanzo here. He gets most of our greens from the garden. Thanks guys for joining me for another garden tour this week. It's really jamming and I am so excited to see how it's going on. I hope that you'll continue to join me. Have a blessed day.